I think I am the only funder representative in the room, which is quite nice, because according to David, that means I'm in charge. You're doing what I say, which is nice to know. It's quite an unusual situation. Yes, maximising the impact of research publications. As we go through, I will be trying to target the message to this audience and say what I think publishers can do to sort of help the situation. I will, if I got this right, give a brief introduction to the Wellcome Trust, and I'm always using this slide, but I've had to change it this time because we've just relaunched our strategic framework, which means our mission statement has changed to a new philosophy, which is good health makes life better. We want to improve health for everyone by helping great ideas to thrive, and a framework to do that. The main message behind the framework is we're a funder, and that will continue to be our core business, but we want to facilitate as well. We want to help science in other ways. And the big news from it is we intend to spend up to $5 billion over the next 5 years, which is not inconsiderable, I think. This is our current grant portfolio, and the reason I put this here is just to show the different areas in which the Wellcome Trust funds. There's a big block for science, but culture and society and innovations there as well. We fund lots of stuff from the very basic lab research, translational stuff, clinical, and yes, in the humanities and social sciences as well, which means when it comes to impact, it varies what we're looking for. We can't expect the same kind of impact across the board. So talk about the impact agenda, and this has already come up, and I'm sure will come up a lot during the day. Impact's become a big thing over the last few years. It means probably something quite different now to what it did a few years ago, when I would fairly regularly attend a bibliometric type conference, and impact was used right there to mean purely bibliometric impact. It tends not to mean that now. The Research Excellence Framework gave 20% of the award and defined impact in terms of reach and significance. And, of course, you use case studies to do that. RCUK defines it as the demonstrable contribution that excellent research makes to society and the economy. And they have in their application form this pathways to impact statement. So even when you're applying for grants, you have to bear this in mind. Wellcome Trust, well, we're independent and like to be a bit different about these things. This may change, but we have no particular definition and no particular aims to impact. We want to improve health. That's our philosophy, and we're going to, however that is done, is a good thing. We certainly make no specific requirements at application stage. What we do look for are these kind of things. These are key indicators, although I should say this is from our old strategy. We haven't developed them yet for our new strategy, but we'll be looking for the same things. We want discoveries, applications, engagement. We want to develop research leaders. We want to develop the research environment, and we want to have influence. And there's things we look for amongst that. In discoveries is significant advances in the generation of new knowledge, and that is publications. But all the other things often come from the publications. They don't work in isolation. So these are the things we look for. Publications, collaborations, further funding, recruitment, public engagement. All of these are on our online reporting system and our end grant forms. We expect, as I said, different things for different kinds of grants in different areas. So we're not hardline on these, and we certainly don't set expectations on you must achieve a certain number of publications, you must have collaborations with industry or whatever. It depends, but we're interested in all these kind of things. So this is the first slide. What can publishers do to help? Provide article level metrics, because we need to know what's happening. Anything you can do in this area is great. Article level metrics are important rather than journal level metrics. Some of the stuff that Stefan was reporting on, what Horizon 2020 indicators, is a bit disappointing in terms of looking at the journal. We very much not to do that. This is just a reason why. This is actually our most highly cited paper. This is a slightly old slide, so the numbers won't be accurate, but it was cited nearly 3,000 times. Normalised citation, that's field weighted, was 327, and it came from ACTA crystallography D. It didn't come from Nature or Cell or Science. It came from a relatively, it's still a good GIF, obviously, but it's not one of the complete top-ranking ones. And actually, this single paper increased the GIF for the journal by 5 while it was being counted. So that's why we don't particularly like journal level metrics. We look at individual article level metrics, and we can tell how many papers we're publishing, and that's the normalised citation across the top. We can compare ourselves to UK benchmarks. I won't go into the details of these. Bibliometricians will like them. So article level metrics, and lots of publishers are doing this in different ways. You will know this more than me. Nature Genetics here has a link to some altmetric.com information in terms of online attention. There's page views and where this attention is going, and it's great we have access to this. eLife, I didn't start with eLife, but obviously we have a slightly vested interest in this. They provide in slightly different forms, and same kind of information there, where it's saved, where it's discussed, and number of views and downloads. So lots of publishers using different ways. Why is this important? Well, here's a paper, a 2012 Trust-associated paper in Plost-neglected tropical diseases. You can see it's not cited a great deal, only 7 citations in Scopus. Twitter, 800 tweets, and over 11,000 Facebook mentions. I think this has been adjusted. I think they've changed the way they measure these things now. But still, enormously high amount of online attention. It's obviously had some kind of impact, this paper. Why? I expect it's something to do with the title. So this doesn't mean this is a massively impactful paper. It just means it's gained some attention. But another case here, another PLOS paper. I do use lots of PLOS examples in this paper and in this presentation. Industry use of evidence to influence alcohol policy, another work and trust funded paper. 96 Twitter mentions, obviously not as much as the last one, and the number is fairly meaningless. It's only when you get to the detail that things become a bit more interesting. Going through them, you see the kind of people who are tweeting about it. We have an MEP, a couple of MEPs, some journal editors, Health Population Nutrition at the World Bank, another NGO. These are a tweet doesn't mean it's had an impact. It doesn't mean it's affecting policy, but it does seem to indicate that it's reaching the people who have the potential to make an impact, to look at policy. So we can follow this through. This altmetrics, generally for us, it's the numbers themselves lead you to things, but it's the real value is in the detail, and you have to plough through that to get some of this stuff. And I should say that slide's been in use for a couple of years because the examples are difficult to find. It doesn't mean they're not there, but you have to pull them up. So more than the metrics, case studies, they were used in the ref because it's the way to tell complicated stories. Loads. There's I think, nearly 7,000 case studies on the ref database, which is, I wish they made better rules when they started setting out these case studies, because there's no rules about mentioning funding at all. So it's a bit of a nightmare bringing out the Wellcome Trust funded ones and trying to explore what's going on. But I hope they'll improve that next time. We've been doing case studies for a while, and this is why this is one of our prominent, I think she's a senior research fellow for us. The complicated inputs and outputs of a research career. Lots of different, there's I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different funders there. These are some key outputs in breast cancer research, which is going on to clinical guidelines and stuff, and potentially having some real impact. But it's not a linear career. There's not one funding output, has one paper, has one impact. Things are complicated, and it's why case studies, as I said, we've been doing them for years, are the best way to tell this. They're also very engaging, and they can reach a different audience to what the other data does. So this leads us on to the second one, provide added content, by which I mean there are, for a more academic audience and other researchers, data, images, etc., linked to some dryad resources, the original data set. The more you put out there, the more impact it will have on other researchers. Lay summaries. Again, PLOS provide this. Well, PLOS Medicine has these editor's summary, which act as a sort of lay summary. And I know someone from Kudos will be talking later and probably have a lot more to say about these kind of areas. But if you want to engage a non-academic audience, these kind of things are great. We need to increase readership. It doesn't mean we dumb it down completely, but some of this is very complicated, and this, I think, acts as a good way of sort of involving people. So the last one, probably the most obvious one, open access. With the CC BY license, it is the major thing to increasing an audience, increasing the number of people who engage with a paper. This is some Nature Communications work done by the Research Information Network last year, which showed that web traffic to open access articles was far more than closed access. It's, to be honest, a bit of a no-brainer. It makes sense. And the citations, there is also evidence that there's more citations for open access. That is a bit more confused picture, I think, because for researchers themselves often have access to these things through an academic library and don't really realise whether something's open access or not. So, but for a lay audience, this is very important. CC BY license, which we mandate for all our research outputs, allows great reuse. The Mosaic is the Wellcome magazine where we have long-form scientific articles for a more lay audience. But here we had a interesting article on female condoms, and because it was CC BY, it was reused in some web platforms, and also the Independent picked it up, and we could. And a lot more people would read the Independent than read Mosaic, but hopefully linked to it, and we gained audience that way. So a lot more impact that way. And it allows repackaging too. So again, translated into different languages. It can be repackaged, different things joined together to find new findings. As I said, we mandate CC BY, and we think it's important. So that is, we'll come back to what you can do to help, provide article level metrics, provide added content, and make things open access. That's the key things which will help. There are lots of others, I'm sure we'll come up to the day, but I think if you can do that, we can help increase the impact of our publications. Thank you.